Welcome everybody back to another episode of Heroes on the Mat. Today I have Kate and Eric, who's right now representing Seminar Stack and Adopt a Cop and making jiu-jitsu accessible to the entire community, law enforcement, veterans, just regular civilian life, whatever it is with an expo style. I think it's going to be a great episode. Let's dive in. All right, so tell me about yourselves. Kate, Eric, how'd you guys meet?
So we are one of the successful Tinder stories.
No way.
Yep,
Okay, excellent.
Tinder chaos to happy married life now.
Nice. How long you guys been married?
We just hit 2 years.
Yeah,
Last week.
Last week it'll be 2 years.
Yep, we were
Congratulations.
in St. Lucia celebrating our 2-year anniversary last week, so we're pretty good stuff.
Very nice. And I heard you got a dog in the background, or you got a dog?
Yeah, we got two.
We got two. There's a big Rottweiler boy underneath of us, and then a rescue mutt on the couch over there.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So they might bark here and there because he likes to protect the house. So we'll do our best to quieten them. But
no, don't worry about it. You got two fur babies, and if what I was gonna say is, if any of my baby's kids run in here, and we'll do the stop, and we'll get to some. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm waiting for the day that I'll be in the middle of recording. Daddy.
Yeah, it'll happen eventually.
Yeah.
Very nice, cool. So, and Eric, how long have you been on the job? Pennsylvania State Troopers, right?
Yep, Pennsylvania State Police trooper as my full-time career, mission, path, everything, and I just hit my 10-year mark in March of this year. Yeah. So nice. I got into the academy March of 2015, graduated September of 2015, and then again just hit my 10 year, just got vested, the whole 9 yards, everything like that for 10 years, and plan to do the full 25. So love it. Me too.
We're at like very similar lengths. I just hit 10 years in November of 2024.
Okay. Nice.
No, I'm sorry. January 2025. November was I switched departments halfway through. 10 years accumulated in law enforcement.
Accumulated law enforcement. Got it. Yeah.
Nice.
Only state police for me. Only one department. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Keeps it easy.
How have you seen the job change between like those last 10 years?
I mean, so the last 10 years, it's been an interesting spot for me because like 5 of those 10 years I've been on medical leave and recovery. Mm-hmm. So like that's been a big change for me because like I'm seeing it not firsthand. Like where I came on medical leave like right when the COVID chaos started and like all of those riots and all those kind of things that were going on when the country was blacked out essentially. Like I kind of missed all of that because I was on medical leave. But yeah, there's definitely been a big shift in a lot of ways with law enforcement in 10 years time from when I started to where we are now. Like in the available training, in the atmosphere, the implementation of body cameras is a lot more present now. Like my department just got body cameras. And so like my entire career I haven't had a single body camera. The only camera we had was the dash cam. So like that's a huge adjustment that, is necessary and helpful and is changing law enforcement drastically.
Yeah. I've seen it. I go back and forth with the body cameras. They're good, they're bad, sometimes they're bad. I'm like nitpicky with it. It's they could definitely work in your favor, and sometimes they can't, but it's usually from like the administration when it doesn't work for you, like, oh, you cursed on camera, like you can't say that, or oh, this happened, they say. But if something bad happens and you have it on camera, like as long as you're not an idiot and doing something wrong as a cop, like as long as you're like doing the right thing, like you should be good, and that video should show you that you're doing well.
In the climate now, though, with everyone having their own camera, almost for you not to have one is just like putting yourself at a disadvantage. You're going to be filmed by somebody, so you might as well have your perspective as well.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen cops get recorded, and they're like, that's great, I'm recording you too. We're all going to record each other. At some point, it just like, it cancels each other out. It's like, all right, we're all recording. Like, what are we doing here?
One of my favorite recording instances, since we didn't have body cameras, like I pulled somebody over and I could clearly tell that this guy was intoxicated. And so I was trying to put him through like field sobriety test, and he was like being super paranoid that he needed to record with his phone. And I was like, hey, like I have a dash cam, you can see it running right there, like at the red blinking light on my mic up here, like you're being recorded. He's like, no, I want it on my phone. All right, cool. So like, I literally took like 10 minutes of the traffic stop and like pulled my gloves out of my pocket, put it on my push bumper, make sure it was sat up right. It was like, hey, like you want to come look and like see, make sure you can catch all of it. And it's like my partner will monitor, make sure it's still going whole time, and like caught the whole thing on his phone and on my dash cam, and dude was loaded. But like,
I was gonna say.
why not take that extra effort just to like make that a more human interaction? Like, will hopefully decrease the likelihood that something bad would happen with it. Because like I'm not telling him no. I'm like, yeah, sure, let's set it up. Let's take this extra time. This is just more time for you to slur your words while you're talking with me. You know, more time for me to like have these casual interactions to show how intoxicated you are with, you know, out me doing actual field sobriety tests. So, you know, it's just like stuff like that is that there's a bad stigma with it. Like, oh, I don't want cameras because no one needs to know what to do. They should trust me on my word. Like, well, why not just use it any way you can to help you? So.
Yeah, I've seen it. Like I said, I go back and forth. I think overall, people might crush me in the comments for this, but I think overall, it's a net positive. I
Yes.
think just like I had a conversation with somebody, this is a couple weeks ago, just like how Miranda rights were never used to be read. Like the whole thing you see on TV for people watching right now, if you don't know what the Miranda rights are, it's just, you know, you have the right to remain silent, anything you can say, yada, yada, all that stuff, right? Like law enforcement officers never used to have to say that. They used to just be like, haha, gotcha, you know? But
Yeah.
when that became like part of your constitutional right that they had to tell you about before you were, you know, in custody and interrogated, I'm sure I wasn't around then, but I'm sure cops are like, the job's dead. That's it. It's
That's it.
never. We're never gonna get
We're never going to recover
confessions.
from this. Yeah.
Yeah, and now we're all used to it. Like I'm in the squad now, so like for me specifically, like I'm used to it. Like we're gonna go interrogate somebody. You got to read them their rights, otherwise the whole thing gets thrown out. And it's like I kind of see that with the body cameras, where it's like, listen, you're gonna be on camera regardless. Like you might as well use it to your advantage. And hopefully, I don't know. Maybe some people might disagree. I go back and forth with it, but
Yeah, there's a couple of things like as speaking as an FTO, there becomes an over reliance too on the camera, and like you're like, oh, I got it on video, I can use it for my report later, and like I was like having pupils coming out of the academy, and like they weren't taking a single fucking note because like, oh, everything's recorded. I'm like, dude, what happens if the MVR doesn't download? Like, what happens if you lose if your mic didn't work? Like, you're just gonna go on a whim? Like, no, you need to still take notes. You still need to like you can rely on it to an extent, but you also have to rely on your own personal training and note taking ability and articulation and those kind of things to make the report, arrest, investigation happen appropriately.
100%. Kate, how do you feel about so this is going to be a selfish question for myself. So my wife knew me before I was going to be, she always knew I was going to become a cop. She knew me before cop life though. And then I told her, I was like, you sure? And she's like, yes, I'm sure. And I'm like, you're double sure because I'm going to miss a lot of holidays, a lot of this, a lot of that. What was your like thought process and dealing with like just the law enforcement world? Because it seems like so far you've like done very well with it. But I was interested in like what's your take in like the law enforcement world and how do you see it?
Well, as far as a relationship goes, like I've dated a lot of military before, a lot of active military, so like them being away and me being alone, like I'm a very independent person generally speaking. So it was kind of very natural for me to just be like, oh, he has this important job that he has to go do, and I'll just continue to do my work, and then we sleep in the same house. So
Right.
it was really easy transitioning into like law enforcement. I respect the job and like the work that he's doing. So for me, I really haven't seen an issue with it in any way. And it's not very different from something that I was familiar with. So it's not like I'm coming into it completely new with those kinds of weird schedules and like those kinds of restrictions. So I don't know that I'm the best person to ask when it comes to that. I was always kind of like in some kind of a weird scheduling relationship situation to begin with. That being said, since Eric's accident and his medical leave, like we've been together every day since his accident because like I work from home and he's home. So it's kind of done a complete 360 in that I'm used to being independent and now Eric is always with me. So it's a little bit of a weird hybrid law enforcement marriage. So he's always here now, at least while he's still on the medical leave. But I don't know how helpful that is for you.
No, no, no. It's very helpful because
Yeah, it was one of those conversation topics when we first started dating. Like why we became the success story that we are at this moment is like because we were very open and honest about that. You know, I talked about because when we first met, I was actively going through a divorce. And so like I was trying to get ahead of all the issues that I had because it was the question that you're asking is like I was with her before becoming a cop, but it was the same thing. Like she knew I was going to be a police officer. I was in the academy processes of getting in, like all those kind of things. But then once I got in, she didn't handle that transition well, and that kind of like broke us down. And so I was like, I don't want to have that happen again. So I was very upfront and forward with it. And she was very upfront and forward with me about everything. And so we just kind of
I was like, hey man, I love my job and I work a lot. Is that a problem? He's like, cool, me too.
yeah, I was like, hey, like I love taking construction overtime shifts, and like there might be a week. Like I worked overnight shift too, so like I worked 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. and they were 10-day stretches, and then I get 4 days off. And I was like, so like in that 10-day period, like you might not see me. It was like, but if you do, like I'm probably coming over to have breakfast, and then I'm sleeping during the day. You know, so like it was good. You know, it worked out.
the reason I ask is because you guys look like you guys just, I don't know how to put it. You look like you guys mend well together. That's what I'm trying to say. And it's, they always say like a couple that makes money together is like so much, they're like so much more connected. Like if you guys run a business together, if you guys entrepreneurs together, if one, it's just, it's good. It's good to see, a couple actually attack both like the law enforcement side, the recovery side, on which I'm going to ask a question about that because I purposefully did not look into the story about your accident so that I could kind of hear it for the first time on camera. But it's nice to see. It's refreshing to see. And I think any advice you have for couples, whether married or dating, where one's in law enforcement, one's in not, because it's a common thing that you see on the job. Like people have relationship issues, or people like they just can't deal with the working hours, or sometimes they just can't deal with like if tragedy strikes or if an accident happens, and somebody's got to step up. It's refreshing to see. It's nice to see, and I think people will definitely get a lot of value from it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it boils down to the biggest thing is communication, like communication about everything. And I think that goes for any kind of work that you do, or just as a relationship in general, married, dating, even friendships, like communication. Just if people would just talk more, it would be amazing how much that people would benefit from it and their relationships in general. And like I say communication before I say things like trust, because trust is also extremely important. But if you're not communicating, regardless if you trust somebody or not, then it's not going to help you just to trust them, because there's still things that fall between the cracks if you're not communicating. So I think that's one of the biggest things. The second thing that I think is really important that Eric and I both really strive for is just being able to know what your boundaries are and your limits and who you are. It was our second date, and I told him, I was like, if this isn't go anywhere, like, don't waste my time. Like, I'm in my mid-30s. I don't really have time for this. Like, I'm not going to change myself for you. So if this isn't going to go anywhere, then, this has been really fun, but I'm probably just going to move on. And I think that just being that aware of self is just brings all kinds of opportunities your way in business and relationships. Just being aware of yourself, your boundaries, and being communicative is just critical.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think there's, as a law enforcement too, like a lot of us don't want to talk about what we go through because we don't want to put that strain on other people, and that's real and that's okay, and we shouldn't really put all of the trauma and things that we see on a daily basis onto other people because they're not built for it, they're not trained for it, they're not accustomed to it. But with that being said, like you need to have that confidant, that person that you can unload on, because if you don't unload, that's when you start seeing the mental health issues in law enforcement. That's when you start seeing the stress, heart attacks, and the fatality rate between retired law enforcement and how many years they spend retired before they pass because of all that stress. You have to be able to unload that, and being able to have those hard conversations with your partner is imperative.
Yeah.
It might be one of those things like I would come home from a shift and she's like, how would it go? I was like, I don't really want to talk about it right now. But it's not that I'm not gonna ever talk about it. It's like, hey, right now I need to like have my dinner and just lay down, and I'll hit you back up in the morning. but bringing it back up is what's important. And it's also like on her side for her to be like, okay, he doesn't want to talk about it. I'm going to make a note of that. And, maybe in 24 hours, like, hey, are you doing okay? Like, did you have a hard shift? Like being able to ask those kind of questions, not necessarily like, you need to tell me what you went through. It's like, did you have a hard shift? Yeah. Do you want to talk about it? No. Okay. And respect that too.
Yeah. You got to have somebody in your corner, man.
Yeah.
You really do. And vice versa too.
Mm-hmm.
Especially 'cause, like Kate, you have multiple businesses, and when I read your bio, you're doing a lot of things at once. I would almost even say, or I'm going to kind of go for a jump here, is probably the same for you too, because running a business is very stressful. I know I've had businesses, and it never stops and it never ends. Like having somebody in your corner from both ends for you guys, it's good. It's refreshing to see, and I think people like what you guys both just said would be very important for people who need to work on their mental health, or just work on just keeping their life like out of shambles. Because if you stay away from the booze and you have a good relationship with your spouse, you can handle like almost anything. It like people are really resilient, but it's those two things that we see time and time again, especially on the job or especially in business, just from my experiences, that it seems like you guys have it figured out. It's nice to see. It really is nice to see. But to circle back, so Eric, you were in an accident around like 2020, right? You mind like just telling the viewers like what's your story, like what happened there?
Yeah. So it was April 24th of 2020. So it was like right when we're in Pennsylvania. So it was like kind of right when hospitals and businesses and things were starting to shut down because of COVID. And I was working the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. And so and when we work overnight with the state police, we ride with a partner. All of our other shifts, you ride by yourself. And so, but overnight we have like 2 cars for the county. And then my partner and I, we worked until 7. So like we were the only car for the entire county from 6 until 7, until the morning shift comes on. And so at around 6 o'clock, we got a call for a crash on the Interstate 81 bridge between Enola and Harrisburg. And it came in as a multi-vehicle crash with unknown injuries. And as we were going down to it, we were getting calls that there was an individual walking down the highway away from the crash. We're like, all right, so this guy clearly is fleeing in his own ways. But we got to go handle the crash scene because, again, it's 6 a.m. It's a very heavily trafficked bridge. It's rush hour in the morning, getting up there. And so as we turn to go onto northbound to where the crash is, we see the one truck that was involved, and it's the front end is pushed into the barrier, and the back end is partially in the left lane, and it's a 3-lane bridge. And so we're like, ooh, that's not very safe.
Yeah,
we got to handle that. And so we didn't get to see the other car because we didn't know where it was. So we parked our cruiser with all of our lights on, everything, the appropriate distance behind the truck, and I was in the passenger seat. My partner was driving, and so in order to help move things along, I was like, hey, I'm going to go check on the truck, make sure no one's inside that needs emergency assistance, make sure that like no one's hurt, dead, dying, like whatever, do the emergency things for the crash scene. And my partner stayed in the car to get the fire police, to get tow trucks, to get, whatever else, flares, all those kind of stuff to help move things along as we prepare for rush hour. And I walk up to the truck, open the door, there's no one inside. And so I try and find like insurance information, things like that, just so we can get it moving along. I come back to the cruiser, sit down, close the door, and it was about a 10-second time frame that I remember. And after I closed the door, like right after I did, somebody blew past us in the left lane and shook the car. And I was like, oh man, we're going to get hit. And then we got hit from behind. Impact was 70 miles an hour.
Oh.
And when I say it was like 5 to 10 seconds, it was literally like I closed my door. We're going to get hit. Did you get tow? Boom. Like it was that's how much time frame it was. So like impact was 70 miles an hour from the rear. I was unrestrained. My partner still was. My next move was to go to the rear of the cruiser to get flares to start marking it off so people would move over.
Yeah.
And so like 5 to 10 second difference was my life. Because 5 seconds earlier, I would have been between the police car and the truck, and I would have been pinned. in that 3 seconds later, I would have been in the left lane and hit directly. And then 5 seconds after that, I would have been at the trunk of my car with the open and hit directly. So like it's wild that I'm here able to speak, that I like don't have the visible injuries that you would think you have, those kind of things. But
I was gonna say, for somebody who got hit rear-ended at 70 miles an hour, you look great, man.
Looks great.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, like I'm very blessed that it was not my time. That was
I mean, clearly,
100%.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
there's still more that I have yet to do. The impact, we got hit by a Sprinter van, and we were in the Ford Taurus police cruiser. And so when it impacted us, it hit us with such force that it pushed our parked cruiser into the truck that was crashed.
Oh my God.
And then with enough force that it scrunched the front end of the cruiser, and like the hood was all bent up and pushed into the engine.
It snapped a rifle.
And it snapped
in the trunk of the car.
Snapped the rifle completely in half.
What type of car was it?
We were in the Ford Taurus, and we got hit by like a Sprinter van, like a normal work kind of van, I guess.
Yeah, sedan.
Not a sedan, like the tall one. Oh. But that was the last thing that I like remember. And then the next time I went unconscious or blacked out. I guess I was awake. I don't know. My partner told me the story, so like all those memories are from what people have told me. Yeah. The next thing that I personally remember is being out of the car. No idea how I got out. Very, very blurry. And I remember leaning on the median barrier and just watching blood pour from my head. And my partner walks over to me, and he's like, "Dude, are you all right?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I've been better." And then I remember saying that, and then I went out again.
Holy cow!
And then the next thing, I woke up, we'll say, in the ambulance as they were cutting off my uniform and like wrapping up my head.
Yeah, doing the whole thing.
And, and like my corporal's with the double doors open. He's like, "Eric, who should we call?" And I was somehow at that point in time came to enough, rattled off my parents' phone number and cell phone, and then rattled off Kate's phone number and cell phone. Kate's name and phone number.
I don't know. I would have never been able to remember his number. I'd be like, I don't know, push this button.
Yeah. Like I'm thinking right now, and I'm like, I gotta think about my wife. I mean, I know it. Don't worry. Don't worry, everybody.
It's
I know
not like second nature for that stuff. Yeah, but like the crazy thing too is like at that time, like we were dating for 6 months.
Wow.
I did not know his phone number.
So like we started officially dating in like October of
2018.
No, I lost my year. Yeah, 2019. I was mixing up the crash date with the wedding anniversary. Yeah. So we started dating like October of 2019, and then the crash happened April of 2020. So like that's what, 6 months that we were together. But yeah, I rattled off her phone number, and then went out again, and then woke up as they were pulling me out of the ambulance into the trauma bay, and then went out, and then woke back up. I remember being in the trauma bay with like all the doctors and nurses around me and being so cold. I specifically remember just constantly shivering because my body was in shock.
Yeah.
You know, and I must have had 20 blankets on me. I remember feeling heavy, the amount of blankets that were on me, because I could not get warm. I was just like constantly shivering. And then went out again and woke up in my emergency room, and that's when I kind of like retained my consciousness.
Wow.
Yeah, so like it was an intense hour of that. I don't even know how long that was. I finally got my phone after like after they did my face stitches, my major gave me my phone. And then I looked at myself, I'm like, holy shit. It took me aback.
He calls me and he's like, don't worry.
No, this is what my corporal said to you.
Yeah, he's like, don't worry. His face looks okay. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He didn't know.
I was going to say, how was it for you getting that phone call? Like,
I missed about 8 of them. I was getting ready for work. It was early in the morning, and I was sleeping, and then I got ready for work, and I got a couple calls from like an unknown number, and I was like, oh, they'll leave a message. No one did, so I was like, it's spam. And then they finally got through. His corporal finally got through, and that's all. The first thing he says to me is like, "Don't worry, his face looks all right." I'm like, "What are you? Who is this? Like, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, Eric was in a." He's haven't you spoken to anyone? I'm like, "No, dude. Like, I'm like 10 minutes late for work. Like, what's going on?" And then he told me he got into an accident and his face looked fine. I was just like, okay, like, is there more to, like, should I be somewhere? Like, it was a really weird interaction. Again, I blame COVID for a lot of kind of that communication thing. And then they handed the phone to Eric for some dumb reason, and he FaceTimes me, and he's like in the hospital with blood in his hair and his stitches everywhere and his eyes like falling off.
Yeah, it was.
And he's like, "Hey, babe, like I'm not doing so good." I'm like, "What is this?" Like, it was very bizarre. But he made jokes in the hospital bed, and then I took off work and ended up. I picked him up 4 hours,
Yeah,
4 to 6
so
hours
that
after
was,
the accident.
I kind of blame the treatment in the hospital for part of the reason why my symptoms have elongated and have been as bad and remaining there as long as they have been, because part of that is due to COVID. Because that was
That's right.
they were trying
Yeah,
to push
for people
every single
listening, you got to
person
remember this is
out
the
of the
middle of
hospital as
COVID.
fast as they could.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
And so this is April. This is right when it's starting to really hit central Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And I was in the hospital and they wouldn't let any of my family in. Like, they wouldn't let Kate in. She drove there, and she's like, because she wasn't wife at the time or mother or something, they wouldn't let her. I think even if you were my wife, they wouldn't let you in.
No,
like
no
my captains and majors had to like kind of strong arm their way in to to have somebody in my room. And
so crazy.
It's crazy.
yeah, so like the crash was at 6:15 in the morning. I was home on the couch at like 3:30 p.m.
He's
Same
just sitting on the side
day.
of his little
Same day.
wheelchair. Same day, and I'm just like, hey.
Same day.
That is so insane. Because when you're telling the story, and I was like, he has been in there at least a week, something like that. But then I remember COVID, and I'm like, oh shit, yes.
Yeah, they didn't even like wash the blood out of his hair. Like he was raw.
Oh my god.
So we took him and put him on my couch. Like, got a bunch of blankets from like Ollie's and like threw him on the couch. And I was just like, you can sit in this corner and bleed.
This is your recovery.
Go bleed over there.
Yeah.
Like, we had to figure that all out. But it was crazy.
So essentially, the impact, I hit the dashboard through the airbag so hard that it blew like half of my head off. Essentially, so there's a scar on the side of my head. I got bit by a dog when I was 5. That's separate. But like,
that's another story. Don't worry. It's nothing. Yeah.
Still love dogs, by the way. But no, there's a scar from my eyebrow here that goes across my forehead and then up to probably about here.
Yeah.
That whole part of my scalp from impact got blown like off that they had to reattach. My left orbital was fractured and swollen completely shut, and they had to put stitches. My eyelid was cut in half. They had to stitch my eyelid back together. There were stitches like on my nose, and then my shoulder was all was torn to shreds, and I couldn't really move it. Yeah. And when I asked my doctor, like as he was like stitching me up and stuff, like me and my way that I process injuries and trauma and stuff, I was like cracking jokes with him and all these kind of things. And I was like, hey, how many stitches do you have? Because I have this running joke where like because of the bite here and like I hurt myself over here at some point. Like I've had a lot of stitches on my face, and I was like, hey, what's the number count? He's like, oh, I stopped counting after 100. Wow. And I was like, oh, so it's there. And so like when they reattached my scalp, essentially, they installed a drainage tube, like down my forehead, across my temple to here, that came out to a little blood pouch that was attached to my shirt.
I was gonna say, like they had to like with TBIs and things like that. Like I know that's part of the process. Yeah.
Brain swelling and for the level of skin and stuff that was removed, like they didn't want like that to like blow up, And so like she had to measure the amount of blood that was in my little blood sac for the first 5 days.
Oh my god!
Make sure that it was still draining properly, because if it wasn't, I had to be rushed back in to make sure that it wasn't getting worse.
That was gross.
Yeah, and then of course with that comes all of the traumatic brain injury from that level of impact to cause that kind of damage. And then with my orbital being fractured, thankfully that fixed itself without needing surgery. That was for the first like month that I was out there, like there was the way that it fractured, there was a chance that my like orbital palate down here wouldn't fix properly and my eye would literally fall like through my face.
You almost lost your eye. It was...
and so they had to monitor that I was with a plastic surgeon like every 2 days for that one to make sure that it was still going properly. And like, thankfully, I didn't need that surgery, and like it healed everything. But because of the severity of that, I have a lot of issues with my eyes. They don't flow properly. Like, when we do field sobriety tests, and we always ask someone, "Oh, have you had recent head trauma?"
Yeah.
I'm a testament to that, because like my eyes 5 years later still have nystagmus.
I was gonna say the nystagmus.
I don't have the horizontal gaze nystagmus. I shows up every single time, stone cold sober for whatever, how long it might be. Like my left eye will still bounce. And
it's crazy.
And then with that comes all the other issues about like returning to work and all driving and guns and work and like all those kind of things that you need your eyes for. Like my eyes are still not functioning properly. And
so you'd be a great test subject for the academy.
Yeah.
Listen, you guys want to see nystagmus? We got somebody without having a.
That's where they place you.
I could be the sober guy though. Like that'd be a really good training.
Would you like to do limited duty? You can just be at the academy and just people stare at your face every time.
Because I remember in my academy, like the instructors would draw straws and they'd be like, "All right, so and so's drinking, and they're gonna go with the pen and they're gonna see what nystagmus looks like." And
the wet labs.
Yeah. Oh man. So how, Kate? How was that with, you being there for like his recovery? I'm sure you.
It was a fast decision. At the time, he was living at, on his own in like a terrible place in the city.
Like I said, because I was actually going through divorce. Like I had my house with my first wife that she was living in, then I had my own personal apartment on the side of it, and then I had 2 dogs, and she had one, and my ex had 1 dog. So like it was chaos.
So he had 2 dogs, and I had a dog at my place, and I was like, well, you can't go anywhere. I guess you're moving in. So here we are. So we had 3 dogs. My work at the time, I was working in sales and marketing for iHeart, and I was able to do a lot of remote work, and they actually gave me a little bit of leave of absence because of the severity of the crash, which was awesome. Really grateful for that. So I was able to like. You
said with iHeartRadio or
iHeartMedia.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that was really great, and in through that, so it was a challenge that I did not expect to do for a boyfriend of 6 months. But I mean, I was kind of locked in. I really wasn't going anywhere, so we just kind of buckled down and did it.
Yeah, she stepped up for sure. Like I can't imagine where I would be in recovery if she hadn't stepped up the way that she did. Because like my ex-wife would have been miserable to go back to. Would have had to probably probably would have gone down to my parents. And they would have been great because my mom works from home and she has her own home business and stuff. And like they would have been fine, but it's still that different level of care. They're still your parents as a 30-year-old.
They also live they also live about an hour from where I was, which all of his doctor's appointments, all like the hospitals, the therapies, like all of that stuff was within 15, maybe 20 minutes of where I was living at the time. So then his mom would then have to drive him an hour and a half for every appointment. He's going to appointments 3-4 times a week. So it just there wasn't really an option.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
Now
that's. I still can't believe the COVID thing that they just kick you out. They're like, see you later.
Like it literally.
You could wash your hair.
Right. Even that.
I just looked at him and it's like all bloody and crunchy and like.
Didn't even wipe my face with blood. Like I had dried blood on my. Like I'll send you the pictures. Like the pictures that you see of me in the hospital. Is exactly what it looked like when I went home.
Oh my god.
And
we'll edit it in. We'll chop them in.
Yeah.
I kind of related. I was thinking of something funny while you were saying about the hospital. And I was like, I don't want to say it now. Let me wait. But like. You know how cops on the job will like they call it shit canning. Like they'll try and shit can something where it's like, oh, I don't want to do that report. I'm just going to tell them to go do this, something like that. Listen, it happens for people watching who aren't cops. Like those aren't the best ones, but it gets the best. Everybody makes mistakes, but it's kind of like the hospital, like kind of not shit canned it, but they were kind of just like, just kind of like hot potato. But if you're going to do that, like at least wash his hair. Don't make it seem like you did it. Like make like
don't make it seem like you did it on purpose.
Yeah.
Right. That's crazy.
But and the thing too is like I remember when I finally was like through the initial shock of everything. Like the next day, I actually remember being in the hospital and they were asking me for like to scheduling a follow up, and I was like, oh hey, I can't do a follow up tomorrow. I have to work. Because like it didn't set in that like I was so fucked up that I wasn't going to be working for a little bit.
Oh, man.
And like. But I remember at one of the next follow-ups, like I've had concussions before, and I stayed in the hospital longer for less severe concussions. And so I remember asking the one trauma doctor, like one of my first appointments back, and I was like, hey, like, what's your usual concussion protocol? And she's like, oh, well, you do these tests, blah, blah, which they did. And I was like, and she's like, yeah. And I was like, how long do they generally stay in there? And she's like, well, it depends on a case by case basis, but it's usually at least 24 hours. And then, like, you could see her face, like, oh shit. Because she realized that I wasn't in there for 24 hours and I was in really bad shape.
Yeah.
Oh, but just a case by case basis. But just a
case by case basis. So, like, it comes out. And, like, I think it's part of it, too, is, like, the reason I got booted outside of COVID is, like, the way that I handle injuries is well. Handle them very well.
I was gonna say, it sounds like you handled it well.
Like I was
problem.
I was chatting with, with the nurses, with the doctors. I was like walking around. I had to ask the doctor like 3 times to do an X-ray on my shoulder. I'm like, hey, my shoulder's not right. Can you like go get the machine and bring it? Like I just was very coherent for the amount of shit that I went through in that.
I was gonna say, meanwhile, everything in there is probably exploded, and you're just like, hey, excuse me, can I get the?
I can't really lift my arm higher than this, so like I feel like something's not right. Like I'm pretty. Fit,
I know how to lift.
I know how to lift my arm. Lift my arms. So
some people got that pain tolerance, man. You got it. That's wild.
It's been a crazy ride since then.
And how'd you guys get involved in like the jiu-jitsu scene from then?
Yeah, so that was actually directly correlated because Eric handles things so well and he's so like job oriented. Eric loves his job. It's a little annoying to be honest. He loves it, but I've always wanted to train jiu-jitsu, and there was a gym locally that had, was it an ad? They were doing like a new ad for like their new fundamentals class, and like they're the only adopt a cop gym in the area, and I was like, hey, you're a cop and you're getting on my nerves, like we should probably try and do something. This was what, 2 or 3 years after?
It was like 1.5 to 2 years in the recovery.
At least 2 years. So I was like, let's go in and just like talk to them and see what this looks like and see if you can watch or do something. Like it directly correlates to like self-defense and like things that can attribute to your job.
Probably going stir crazy at that point, right?
Yeah. So we went and talked to him. We talked to Adopt a Cop a little bit about them. He applied, did not get in because he was on medical leave, which makes sense. But we like learned a little bit about the program. And we're like, oh, this is like awesome. So then we talked to the gym and we decided to sign up together. And what we learned very quickly with jiu-jitsu is, one, it's really hard and it sucks. But also you can scale it to whatever you need to do, which is very different from a lot of different like workouts and therapies and things. Like flow rolling is really big.
Yep.
What we do even now still, because Eric has issues with vision and with dizziness and things like that, and head trauma. He usually just uses me as his partner, and we'll do the drills and we'll train, but he doesn't live roll.
Mm-hmm.
If he does, it's usually me, and he just like crushes me.
I'm very selective with who I live roll with, because like early on when we were in the learning process for jiu-jitsu, there was like 1 or 2 that I, were new to the gym. I was like, I'm very like energetic. I need to do things. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it 100%. And so, I was doing some live rolls with these guys, and I'm like, oh, they're not respecting my injury at all. Like, I got to be a lot more selective.
He's also not vocal about his injuries, which is a problem as well. He's like, oh, I'm fine. And he looks fine. So, like, these guys are like, oh, he's a big guy. Like, we'll wrestle.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, you got the new fresh meat type people that's like, oh, look at this guy. Yeah. And then they just, like, crush you. Like, it doesn't happen at all gyms, but, like, there are always some people that try and...
He just physically abused his small, adorable wife. Let's crush him.
Oh, yeah.
Just watched him crush this poor girl over here. Let's go take it.
Oh, that's funny, too. Yeah, they might take it that way, though. You might get, like, the mad enforcer of the gym and be like, let's teach this guy a lesson real quick.
So I always wanted to try it, and because we found that jiu-jitsu was so scalable and, like, easy to work with his recovery, like, that's kind of how we went into it.
It's entirely her. She's the reason that we train jiu-jitsu, because in her infinite stepping up that she's done, when I was starting to really miss work, when I was getting to the point in my recovery where I like physical therapy was like, all right, you can start exercising again. You can start doing these things again. And that was when I was like, dude, I want to go back on the road. Like I want to go be in patrol. And it was like hitting me really, really hard emotionally. And so she stumbled upon Adopt-A-Cop, the nonprofit, and she's like, "Oh, she's like, what do you think about this?" And like, would just like casually show it to me every so often, And like, we're big UFC fans, like we're watching UFC every weekend together. And she's like, "I've always wanted to try that." Like, just like dropping hints here and here, here and there.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when I fully looked at it, I'm like, "Dude, this sounds awesome." I was like, "Yes, let's do it." And
structured violence.
Structured violence. Yeah, it was.
It's a perfect way to put it. It's exactly
Lily
right.
started training jiu-jitsu because of her desire, and then also because of Adopt-A-Cop. Like, they were the reason that we started. The reason that we went to the gym that we went to is because they were the only affiliate gym. If you're an affiliate gym, Adopt-A-Cop, you're gonna have to be law enforcement friendly. So that's already a good start.
Of course.
Like, and there's other cops that were training there. So like, I told them my story. They were super sympathetic with me, and like that, they gave me the other opportunity to maybe drill with them, someone like my size instead of my adorable wife, tiny wife that she said. But like, yeah. So it's been instrumental in my recovery. Outside of just the physical aspect of training jiu-jitsu, I think that it actually benefited me more in the mental health side of things than it actually did in the physical side of things. And that's the magic of it. So it's been awesome. We love it.
Yeah. It's a tale as old as time. People say jiu-jitsu saved my life.
Yep.
In more ways than one. I've heard mental health, physical health. It's great. It's very good. How did you guys hear about Heroes on the Mat from there?
So it kind of led our love of jiu-jitsu and the desire to get me back to work, but I'm too fucked up to go back to work. I needed something to do every day instead of just physical therapy, vision therapy, massage therapy, counseling, like all the instead of my 5 hours of therapy every day, I was getting burnt out from that. I needed something different. And so she was like, "What if we raise a fundraiser for Adopt-A-Cop?" And I'm like, "Sure." I was like, let's see what that will look like. And so that's kind of where Seminar Stack spawned. And then because of Seminar Stack is kind of where we fell into Heroes on the Mat and met the owner, Peter Roy, and all that kind of stuff. Like,
awesome.
We just like we reached out to him as we were planning year 2 for Seminar Stack, and we got to talking and told him the story, and we then invited him down to a fight in Philadelphia, and just kind of.
That's awesome. You see this, like, I've been seeing it very recently too, like the last few years, just in the jiu-jitsu industry, like the spider web, like network effect of like all these things, like so many events, so many gyms, so many brands, I mean, you have like popular YouTube channels now. Like, I feel like I've seen this happen one time before in another industry, and it's like the jiu-jitsu industry is like right at the cusp. It is a complete blue ocean when it comes to like business, when it comes to like personal branding, and I'm seeing it all like tied together. It's like, I don't, have you guys ever seen the meme where I forget what show it is, but it's the guy with the crazy hair and it's got like all the yarn pinpointed like on like a chalkboard, like
there's no Karen in HR.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's
Always
coming
Sunny.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah. So it's cool to see like tons of different people, companies, brands, events, things like that, like come together. It's very nice, and I think soon, very very soon, when it goes like a little bit more mainstream, it'll be on things like maybe UFC Fight Pass. Like they have like the jiu-jitsu matches, they have the super fights coming on. Like I can almost see it getting to like an ESPN level. Like, we're not quite there yet, but people like you guys, people like we're gonna get it there. Like slowly but surely, we're chipping away.
Actually, it was Heroes on the Mat reached out to Adopt-A-Cop to try and help pull some of the officers who were sponsored, since he's doing the only bracket. Kate is the program director for Adopt-A-Cop, and so she got the message and was like, "Oh, this sounds awesome! Like, we should reach out to him." And then so we started talking through him through Adopt-A-Cop, and then we're like, "Hey, by the way, like there's this fundraiser for Adopt-A-Cop called Seminar Stack."
Which is also us.
And
okay,
so
that's
we kind of messed with Joe a little bit, because he would message Adopt-A-Cop and then send like the same message to Seminar Stack.
And he'd be like, "Man, Adopt-A-Cop just shared my thing." We're like, "Wow, that's so cool." It's me. I'm the one sharing it, Joe.
That's so funny.
The same message from Seminar Stack to Adopt-A-Cop until there's one point he's like, "Wait, what?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're the same person. Let's get on a call."
Yeah, like, hey, like we got to meet up. Like we got to talk. Like That's cool. So talk a little bit about Seminar Stack.
So Seminar Stack literally spawned out of the fundraiser that we did for Adopt a Cop. So the first year, it was just Eric and I, like in the kitchen, trying to put together seminars, all benefiting Adopt a Cop. And like it was at a college that's nearby. All of our instructors were thank you, volunteers. They all volunteered all their time, which was awesome. And it started out from, hey, we want to raise some money, let's put on some seminars, to like we ended up getting some crazy instructors, like out of nowhere, just like weird connections. I messaged everybody online, like on social media, and these incredibly talented instructors were answering like, oh yeah, I'll fly in and I'll volunteer. And I'm like, wait, what? So we ended up having 6 paid seminars last year. We had 5 or 6. We did a whole free seminar series. So that was all focused around like mobility, nutrition, there was a yoga. So it was all free health and wellness. And there's also paired with these paid seminars, which is everything from weapon retention, police jujitsu, sport gi and no gi jujitsu. And we had vendors there. So like that was how Seminar Stack happened. And we raised like $8,200, $8,200 to $8,500 for it. Like just doing stuff out of our kitchen. We didn't pay for marketing. It was all word of mouth. And then at the end of last year, we're like, kind of really liked doing that. Like, do you want to make this a business and like start just doing this? So we did. I mean, we made it a business, and it's Seminar Stack LLC. And a week after we made it a business, Adopt a Cop contacted us and asked if we wanted to assist them with helping their brand. So against better judgment, we took that on as well. Eric helps volunteer with that, and I do some of the program directing for them now as well. So running Seminar Stack, program directing for Adopt a Cop are two of the things that I do. And then this year, Seminar Stack has just blown up. It's at the casino this year, over outside of Hershey, the Hollywood Casino. It's August 2nd. We have...
Yeah, so this year we've increased like dramatically.
Everything.
So like we're taking over the Hollywood Casino in Grantville. We have three floors plus a parking garage roof of activities going on all day. So like we essentially are taking over the entire casino that's not the gambling floor.
Yeah.
So we added in a jiu-jitsu tournament this year.
There's cash brackets. Awesome. There's a first responder only cash bracket as well, which is awesome.
We added in we have 6 ticketed seminars this year. 4 of them are 2 sport jiu-jitsu, 2 police jiu-jitsu, 1 knife combatives, and 1 on like handcuffing and position control and how to handle situations that arise when someone is handcuffed, like all those kind of things. We also added in speakers this year, which are covering subjects like post-traumatic success, like how to use the trauma from being a police officer or experience trauma and turn it into mental health resilience and success. We have one on social media and how to use social media to build your brands and your businesses. And then we have one on mission and purpose, which is about like finding your mission and purpose to grow your leadership skills and your businesses and all those kind of things. And then on top of the tournament, the ticket seminars, the speakers, we also still have our free seminar series, which we've added more to this year. We have a nutrition seminar, we have a mobility seminar, we have a blind yoga seminar, where everyone's going to be blindfolded and you're doing yoga. We have a breath.
I thought you just misspoke for a second. I was like, wait, blind yoga?
Everyone is blind doing the yoga class. And then we have a breathwork seminar focusing on like controlling your breathing and using that.
I have never heard that before. I am extremely interested.
Yeah. Take it.
Take
Blind
it.
It's free.
Completely free.
You just have to register.
We have a general self-defense seminar that's completely free. And then we added in a Stop the Bleed course with tourniquet application, punching the gauze in for bullet wounds, like all that kind of stuff with the dummies and everything like that, and that's completely free.
Yeah.
And then
you guys got a lot of plates spinning.
Yeah. And then we still have our vendor row of people selling their goods all around the mental health, fitness, jiu-jitsu world. And then we also added in a ruck for the morning on the parking garage roof, which is going to benefit.
So the ruck will benefit We Defy. The rest of the event proceeds will go towards Adopt a Cop. So we're still fundraising in every aspect of the events. We got some great sponsors. We have Game Day Men's Health is sponsoring the tournament in its entirety, which is wonderful. They're a great company out here. I don't know if you're familiar with who they are. Yeah, you guys may have them out there. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, they're nationwide.
I was gonna say I've recognized the name before. Yeah.
Yeah, they're great.
And then we have Next Generation Personal Training sponsoring. The reason we can do the free seminars is because Next Generation Personal Training is sponsoring that entire series to allow us to offer them for free, so people can come and you can literally do all of Seminar Stack for free and still gain so much benefit from it. Now, like, it would be great if you like come for free and like put a little bit in the raffles, because like we have a lot of donations of like free stuff that we're gonna raffle off at the end of the day. So it's good. It's an awesome event, and it's all focused around jiu-jitsu, health, fitness, wellness, with a big emphasis and focus on law enforcement training and using jiu-jitsu to better law enforcement, which then betters the departments, which then betters the community, and bringing all of that together in a one-day expo style event.
Yeah.
So awesome.
That'd be cool.
What advice would you have for people who are on the job who have an idea like you guys had? Because it's very popular in law enforcement, very popular for firefighters too. That's because they work like 24-hour shifts and then they're off like 9 days in a row. Whatever it is. I don't know. I'm just listen. I'm taking a jab. All right. They're all great. But you see a lot of them. They have businesses, right? A lot of cops. They'll have like their side gig or this and that. Not to give this to not to put a dig on anybody who like works security off duty, but it's like, man, there's so many skills that cops have that can be used for business. And like you guys use it very well. Like, I mean, Kate, sales and marketing for iHeart, like I'm sure like that's not, listen, you passed over that. Like that's like, come on. That's like, like you definitely have a lot of experience, you know? And Eric, I'm sure like you guys have probably learned a ton running this. It's like, what advice would you have for somebody who's on the job or just anybody watching this about starting some type of side business, full-time business, remote business, whatever? Because most people, they try or they fail or they never actually get to it, and then they're just like, I'll just work more overtime.
I think it falls into, if it's something that you enjoy and you see a benefit in, you just got to commit to it. I mean, the same way that you commit to the overtime shifts, it's because you like the job, ideally, and you like the money. But like, if you find the one that hits your hobby, hits your passion, that's outside of your day to day, and you can monetize that, like, that's great, and that's what's going to help it grow, because it feels like work but doesn't feel like work. It's that new thing, like, oh, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. It's like that, but it's true. Yep. Like, that's why these small businesses and these little things like start to pop up all the time and grow, is because they care about it.
I think that a really big thing that people don't like is that you have to ask for help. It doesn't matter how much you like it, or like, we've asked for more help in the last year trying. That's the only reason we're able to make this a business, and we're still very new. We're still a startup. But I'm on Instagram messaging everybody. Like, I can't tell you how many messages Joe Rogan has in his inbox that he'll never see from Seminar Stack. I'm messaging everybody who will listen to me, and it's part of the reason that we got the instructors that we did. I'm reaching out to these law enforcement training companies like Invictus, like EFC, like BJJ Cops, like
OSS.
There's a ton. Like, hey, can you just like, do you have any time for me to tell me about how your trainings work, or like what has been working for you and what doesn't? Weedify was gracious and got on a call with us, and I was like, Adopt a Cop is still growing. Can you tell me some of the things that helped your nonprofit grow? It's the same thing. If you're not familiar with Weedify Foundation, what they are is they pay for jiu-jitsu training for veterans. So it's like Adopt a Cop, but for veterans. Adopt a Cop pays for training for law enforcement in jiu-jitsu. So I was like, what is some of the success that you've had, and do you mind talking to me about that? We've reached out to Tap Cancer Out, who's doing wonderful things as a charity for jiu-jitsu and cancer. So it's just like, send the message. Most of the people, especially in the jiu-jitsu community, like, are more than happy to talk to you. Like, yeah, you're not going to get to some people, or you might be ignored, but I don't think there's a single person that I've reached out to who has seen my message that hasn't responded to me in a positive way. And I really, truly mean that. We've gotten so much advice and help and direction from those people in connecting us with things that without them, things like small business wouldn't be possible. So being open and willing to take the extra step to get the help, to just get the help. Yeah. Like, it's not going to take, anything but a little bit of sucking up your pride to go and ask for that, right?
Big time.
So the biggest advice for me is, like, you want to do something, like, be humble enough to go ask somebody to help you do it. And then just do it.
Very similar to jujitsu.
Yep.
Strip the ego and start taking action.
Start doing it. Yeah.
Like strip the ego and get on the mat, and then just continue to do that, and eventually you be black belt. You start crushing people.
Exactly.
You know.
By no means we're still white belts in jiu-jitsu.
I've been a blue belt for 7 years. Please,
Yeah.
come on, stop. Like,
As long as you're like, willing and open to get the help and listen and like have a passion for it and you're not lazy, like just go do it. Like that's it.
It helps
cool.
having a partner in it, you know, that has the same drive that you do. You know, we work the way that we work as well as we do because she's got like the business marketing brain, and I've got the realistic, logistic, logical cop brain.
Crushes all my dreams.
So like she'd be like, oh, let's do this. I'm like, okay, cool. That's all great. Like, let's bring it down to where
the
we
UFC
can accomplish
would have already
for
been
year
involved
two.
if
Like,
it wasn't for him. I tell you.
Yeah. But having that banter back and forth, that the partner, that person you can work with, you can bounce your ideas off, so you don't feel like you're going at it alone. Which again falls back to the asking for help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It's honestly excellent advice. All around, amazing story. What do you have to tell people before the sign off? Before we end the episode, what's your tagline? I always let the guests get the last word in.
Come to Seminar Stack, August 2nd, 2025, Hollywood Casino in Grantville, Pennsylvania. Take a seminar, watch a seminar, compete in the tournament, visit our vendors, listen to our speakers, go to the ruck, whatever it's going to be. We want to see you on the mats.
Awesome. Love it.